Okie doke. It's good to be here. I'm actually finally completed. I've completed this move from Denver all the way to Champaign, Illinois. This is day number 2 in my new house. So that's why there are some boxes behind me. Nothing on the wall yet. This is the beginning of getting going. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about first position. Why not? Just um, I want to talk about it for a couple of reasons. One, I feel like it's a topic that is really not covered too much uh, out there. I've talked about it before, but also I've got a class coming up on Saturday. I'm doing a first position class. I got some things I want to share with you about that. But let's talk about it first before I go mentioning details on Saturday's class. I'll put that stuff in the video description. Um, just a couple good pieces of information, maybe ground rules or sort of not ground rules, let's call them good advice for getting started with first position. Because I think out of all of the common positions that harmonica players are using, and when I'm talking about positions that are most often used and referred to in blues, that's first position, second position, and third position. There are other positions people use, of course, like 12th position, um, and fifth position, some cool songs out there, like St. James Infirmary. And there's certainly options. But in the world of first position, when we get started playing the harmonica, that's what we're doing. We're doing that, that simple. I always refer to Oh Susanna because that was my first song. But so we're used to this blow and draw pattern and thinking of this first position as this kind of square approach to playing harmonica. But when in reality, so it's got beautiful areas of the scale work where you can start to take advantage of all these bent notes and the bluesy parts of the scale. One thing to consider when you jump into first position playing is that there, in the world of playing blues, the scale work is not always super friendly, which means you can't always just blow and draw and bend to get the notes required. They're missing notes, so you would have to substitute, like the second note of the scale, the blues scale. So overblowing would be required to complete like the scale, but I don't overblow in most of my playing. So that's another thing to be considering. Like, what if you're not going to play this complete scale with these advanced techniques? How do you move around in this scale work? And the answer is you can note substitute and find notes that are very close to that scale note, but you can also just use the ones that are working. The 3-draw half step and full step bend in first position are super sweet. So what I hope to do in this class is discuss some really well-known song studies, take a couple examples, look at like some Sonny Boy Williamson II, Jimmy Reed, Honest I Do, Muddy Waters, Hoochie Coochie Man. Start listening, first of all, to the examples of what people have already recorded. Gary Primich, William Clark, all these guys recorded some first position, James Cotton, Little Walter, Big Walter, and so on. So we're going to check out some of the more well-known riffs on Saturday in this online class I'm offering. It's going to be a couple hours. The cost is $20. Again, that info is in the video description coming up. I'll update it after I post this video. But we'll get into this kind of thing. The common areas that are the trip up for the average player, all of it, when you think about playing your scale work, I often think of it in registers, bottom, middle, and upper register, and what's going on and what's happening. So let me just say that the bottom is usually a disconnect for the average player. I'll give you a couple examples today, a couple things to think about so that you're actually getting a riff to think about in just one moment. And the middle is really challenging. unless you're going to throw in an overblow and bring in appropriate notes. The high end is very logical as far as the way it lays out with these blow notes and blow bends in first position. We don't need many draw notes. You can use them, but it's a lot of just executing the blow and the blow bend and finding these phrasings. It's to me, it was very intuitive to self-discover the ideas once I had the technique of blow bending. So here's an idea. Again, I'm throwing these tips out to you. If you want to get started in first position, take the knowledge you already have in second position. And thanks for joining me today. It's good to see everybody. It's been a while. So I've got a D harmonica here, which means I'm going to play it in the key of A for second position. And I would just take the knowledge I have in second. And then I jump over to my first position, knowing that the equivalent phrasing is going to be found on holes 7 through 10, with mainly blow and blow bends. So it's that simple in a sense. If you haven't been playing first position, I hope you'll consider joining me Saturday. This, without going off on the coronavirus and all that, it really has been quite remarkable how it's affected me, my ability to work, and everyone out there. So I really don't want to go off on it because it's not like poor me. Everyone's been hit by this. It's hit the music community really hard. So because we can't travel, we can't get to gigs and events where we're scheduled, as you know. And because of that, I personally have decided to do a couple things to pivot and try to, survive here, which is I'm going to be offering more online classes coming up, more than I normally would. And I'm going to be talking about a future summit around the corner. I'm really close to announcing it. I've got to work a couple things out before I do that. And my hope also is to maybe grab some harmonica friends in the community, kind of like with what I do in the Global Blues Harmonica Summits. And if I can, maybe create a couple events centered around featuring a few players that have not been featured on what I do, my platform, and to help them out, to make sure that they can, get an opportunity or two. So if that sounds of interest to you, sign up to my email list or join me here on YouTube. I'll be talking about it soon again. Back to the first position thing. So let's grab this riff. So we're just centering around playing like the 3-draw bent. I'm bringing it really from the full step on this D harmonica. So that's 3-draw, full step bend. I lift it towards that half step and go to 4-draw. I play around with that bend by entering back on the 3 and bending it down. This is second position on a D harp, so we're in the key of A, and going to 2-draw. So these all inhale, you're just playing. Is this really upside down? No. It's just facing that way. Yeah. By the way, this is my left hand. Everyone always asks me, are you right-handed and you're playing? It's a live stream. It flips. It's a mirror image, I guess. So this riff around the 3-draw bent, lifted to 4-draw, back to the 3-draw, bending it down to the 2-draw. Then we jump up on an A harmonica in first position around the 8 blow and start on a bent note. It only goes down half step. So I'm trying to blow bend. If you can execute a blow bend on 8, relax the tongue, let it fall back down. It'll unbend to that 8 blow. And then we make our way to 9 blow. So we're all blow notes now instead of all draw notes like it was in cross. And then back to that 8 blow bend and lift it. Back to the 8 blow bend. See how I'm bending, releasing the bend and going back to the bend? This is a really good practice for any position, and whether it's draw or blow notes, or blow bends, get used to what I call stretching that bend, move across all the microtones, and it's the opposite of playing these bends staccatoed. So then get back to your D. Two, three, and four drop, 2, 3, and 4 holes working in that area, all draw notes. And keep experimenting. You just find that these riffs are available to you. You just have to discover where they are up top. Now, that's just one side of first position, talking about the high end of playing. The other thing to figure out is to be examining all the examples of what in the world, in the context of blues, let's say, what were these guys doing around holes 4 through 7, where there is a lot of this disconnect. We think of the "Oh Susanna" kind of phrasing. There are some cool transition riffs moving up and down that I use. Those are some things that I'll discuss in the class coming Saturday. But the bottom side of first position, pardon me, that we haven't really gotten into is a whole lot of fun to play once you get some basic phrasing down. The challenge, I think, for the average player that's an intermediate kind of player is that they tend to recycle the same ideas because it's hard to come up with some new and fresh ideas on the bottom. And this is where your ability to be creative with the phrasing in general is going to come into play. So that means that you can take one simple idea, make a smaller idea out of it, play with the timing and phrasing. It sort of gets you out of the rut of just going, I'll play some of the traditional riffs that you hear all the time. Not that you shouldn't learn these. You should absolutely be learning these. Maybe they come first, so you get a basis for what the average player is doing, and then you think about, what else can I do in these areas? Remember, the 3-draw half step and full step bend are your friend in first position. You may not want to hang out on the 3-draw, but that half and full step bend are beautiful. So is the full step and the half step bend as we pass through those areas. So here's another tip for you today. I'll leave you with this final tip and then some examples on the bottom. My tip would be get used to managing just certain ranges of bends. Like, for example, I said 3 half step and full step. Same is true in second position, where mostly we're using these bends on the 3. And if you get used to moving your tongue just enough within the range of a half and a full step bend, you'll never have to worry about hitting that 3-draw or a bad note as you're moving down. So here's some of these classic ideas in the bottom. They all start to sound very similar. And it's coming pretty much from the blues, the modified, I'll call it the modified blues scale. So first position's a blast to explore. The main reason why I would encourage you to start learning a little bit about playing this position is because the whole name of the game in the world of improvisation is to begin to come up with new phrasing. And it's not just for your listener, it's for you, so that you don't get bored with what you're doing and you constantly are pushing yourself. If you only had second position, for example, every time you picked it up, you'd be approaching and thinking about that phrasing for every song. And not every song is going to be the second position will not be a great fit for every type of song. You'll learn over the years that you start to hear a song and go, ooh, this is going to be a sweet first position song based on the phrasing that I hear coming out in first. Same with third position. You'll be like, oh man, I can just hear third position phrasing laying well over this. And so that is why this is important. You're building your arsenal of tools and your ability to express it and emote in different phrasings. And it's a lot of fun. It changes things up dramatically when you can do that. You can even change positions as you're soloing because you're not changing the key that you're playing in, just the key of the harmonica. So again, if we use A first position, We still play in the key of A for second position on a D harp, and we play in the key of A sometimes on a G harp for third position. So they're all being played in A when you start doing that, but it's fun. It changes the world. That's my thing on first. You want to learn more about first position? I'm going to do this big event this coming Saturday, 11 a.m. Central. I'll have 2 hours in a live online class that's recorded. So even if you can't make it live, you can go back and watch it. And I'll be covering some of the classic riffs that live in first position. We'll go through some examples of patterns to get you familiar with the bottom end of first position. And we'll discuss again some classic riffs that I found coming out of first position that sort of cross over each range of the harmonica. You think about Jimmy Reed, he lived primarily for first position, holes 7 through 10. He wrote the book on that kind of phrasing for first. And then you move down to the bottom, and there's some great stuff recorded by like Big Walter Horton. I mentioned James Cotton, these kind of players. So we're going to grab, and Little Walter, can't forget like Little Walter, take a look at some cool songs like Ice Cream Man. And there's just some beautiful stuff happening. If you think that's of interest to you, I'll update the video description when I end here. Stay safe out there. Thanks for tuning in. I'll probably be broadcasting a lot more coming up here now that I'm finally have made it to the state of Illinois. It's been a long journey. Let me see if I missed anything in these comments. Good to see everybody here. Hello, hello. Ah, nice. Yes, the boxes I just got here. Yep, getting settled. It's going to take a minute before I get some, maybe in a couple days to get all the pictures up and make it feel like more of have a vibe going in my office. Well, that's an interesting comment, Charles. You said, I feel the harp is all improv no matter what I'm trying to play. Well, learn some more melodies. I mean, then you focus on a structure that you can get your melody playing, constantly acquire melodies. I still have a lot of work to do in that department as well. Early on, I realized my limitations in how many melodies I had learned, just songs, pre-written melodies, right? We're not talking about improvising anymore and creating in the moment. And you need those. You know why melody playing is so important? That's the melody is the most essential ingredient in songs. And when somebody says to you, "Can you play me something?" This was the biggest thing, man. Back in the day, somebody said, "You play harmonica, play me something." Well, all I could do was just kind of make sounds at that point and play "Oh Susanna." That's all I had. And then eventually I'm like, if I could just get a couple more melodies under my belt, then I can just bust out like a cool little ditty for them. Hello from everybody. Germany, welcome. I don't use one overblow for the blue scale in second position. I want to say you'd want the two overblow on the bottom end, if I'm not mistaken, instead of just using like two blow. I could be wrong on that. But again, that's because I don't use that. I'm not a heavy overblower. So from Japan, welcome. Karen, how are you? All right, last little thing here. Get yourself an A and a G harmonica if you want to get into this style of playing. In the class Saturday, I'll definitely be using both an A and a little bit of the G harmonica. My favorite keys are going to be G, A flat, A, and B flat, sometimes a B harmonica. B major right there is a great first position key. Lower keys are a little more friendly. Otherwise, by the time you get to C and D and up, the blow bends get really screechy. I will say, though, Rick Estrin, I don't know, I have no idea the name of the song, but I can remember years ago coming across a Rick Estrin song where he was playing first position on a D harmonica. Anybody know that song? I can't remember the name. And I thought to myself, that's first position. I can tell. But wow, that's a high key. He made it work. You just got to be really, really sweet with it, you know? But in reality, that's something I never do. I'm sticking to the A and the G harmonica. Thank you for the correction, Brian. The one overblow for the blue third. And I definitely don't use that. I've never used the one overblow in my life. Um, this is an interesting whole nother topic, but in the world of overblowing, people are asking all the time, do I need it? Should I learn it? You should learn anything that you think is interesting to you and that compels you or makes you, yeah, why not? But as far as practicality and roots music, do you have to have it? No, most players don't overblow at all. Think about the kind of music, the context in the music you're playing. So, you know, if you're a player like a Carlos Del Junco or Jason Ritchie, who's using these very musically in the context of music that really calls for those notes in the phrasing they're using, like some fusion music that's rock and funk and jazz and has all these other elements. Well, then overblowing is pretty relevant because these missing notes are needed in the context of what they're doing. For the style that I love and learn, none of my heroes used overblowing. However, in learning, I do use the six overblow now that I've learned it. It's such a relevant that minor third is so relevant in the blues scale that one made sense, but I don't use it all the time. So again, my advice is you should learn anything. Don't let anybody tell you don't do this or don't do that. Self-discover, do your own research. Listen to the examples of what you want to get into. That's my advice on that topic. Oh, just another one just popped in my head right now. That's so funny that just happened right before I was going to sign off. You want to consider a really cool first position song that is not so traditional, like blues sounding first position. Check out Snooky Pryor, Shake My Hand. Look that song up. It's just harmonica and vocals, and it's beautiful. It's on a C harmonica, and I've worked with students over the years dissecting this song. It seems innocently so straight ahead as far as what he's doing, but in reality, you start to realize that there's some really cool phrasing that is just most people never bring into first. Check out Snooky Pryor, Shake My Hand. I'm adding that to my list to bring a little bit of that in for Saturday's class as well. Thanks for hanging out today. I hope you guys stay safe. I hope you're happy, and you better believe you're going to see me in the near future with some broadcasting right here on YouTube and otherwise.